Hello everyone. In this video I'm going to go over some of the new features I've been working on in WorldKit. The first feature I'm going to cover is the new output quality slider. So using the quality slider we can set the detail down to 1 and you'll see that we get a terrain generation much faster than we did previously in WorldKit. Using output quality 1 you can quickly test out a lot of iterations of regions and biome generations. And you can see it's not quite the same quality that it is when you set it up to a higher output, but all the mountains and biomes and everything are in the same spots, so it's a great way to get a feel for what the map is going to look like quickly. Output quality 1 is basically the input to the second part of the algorithm, so WorldKit always generates this output quality 1 as the first step in its generation process when generating higher quality levels. So output quality of 2 is the 12-second generation, and that's what we had previously in WorldKit. So that was the only output quality level until now. And so what you see should be fairly familiar to anyone who saw the previous videos. This is what the standard output looked like on the previous generation of WorldKit. And then from here we get into the new higher quality levels. So I've added a new algorithm to WorldKit that essentially takes input from satellite data, satellite topographic data, and analyzes it to extract prominent and unique features in the terrain. And this allows WorldKit to generate some high frequency detail without taking an extreme amount of time to generate. So here you can see examples of a couple biomes where the algorithm was trained using data from the BC Rocky Mountains in Canada and the Grand Canyon. So what we're looking at here is from the Rocky Mountains. As you can see, it takes a few seconds longer to generate with the higher detail quality, but the results are much more realistic looking. They aren't 100% accurate from a physical point of view because it is using actual terrain features from real live terrains versus simulated topology. But in practice it's barely noticeable and the results are far more believable. There's that Grand Canyon biome again. And then more of the Rocky Mountain biomes. And the difference between output quality 3 and output quality 4 is just the size of the output terrain. So output quality 4, the output is 8K, and output quality 3, the texture size is 4K. And I'm playing around with the map detail scale here a little bit for output quality 5 because output quality 5 is so large that terrain features need to be a little bit smaller for it to make sense. Otherwise it looks like mountains are way too big. Output quality 5 is a 16K map, but the base size that the terrain is generated on, the mesh size, is up from 2K to 4K. So it generates basically a much larger world space. And while WorldKit will generate terrains up to 32K, which is approximately 1,000 square kilometers, in practice I found that the largest map I was able to reasonably use in Unreal Engine 4 was 16K, or approximately 256 square kilometers. And that was just due to the amount of terrain you can reasonably have loaded in the engine at one time. So what we're looking at here is about the the maximum world size that I was able to successfully load into Unreal Engine. Output quality 6 will go a step further and make that 1,000 square kilometers, but I'm not sure if that will have a lot of practical application quite yet. One thing I should take a moment to mention here is that the viewport controls have been completely reworked in WorldKit. So you can speed up, slow down the camera, and it's now on a fixed up axis system. So it behaves much more like the editor in Unreal, and you can increase and decrease the speed of the camera using the mouse wheel. And the detail scale here is a little bit too small or too large for the output quality, so I'm increasing the map detail scale to 12 to generate a little bit smaller terrain features, so it fits a little bit better with the 256 square kilometer map. The scale compression becomes much more believable with the new high frequency terrain detail in there. But here I'm going to increase the detail scale to 6 just so that you can see what it looks like with 1,000 square kilometers of terrain. But as I said previously, this probably is not going to be practical in current engines, although soon it may be. And another option is if you generate at 1K, you can select a portion of the map that you like and crop that out and use that as your map. So it gives you a little bit of a buffer. If you generate the whole continent, you can just pick small regions that you actually want to use for your maps in-game. You might need to adjust the height scale down a little bit for a map of this size. And now I'm going to go over some of the features of the new renderer in WorldKit. So if you turn the colors off now, you'll see that WorldKit now includes Ambient Occlusion and a PBR rendering pipeline, along with atmospheric fog, a skybox, and a water plane. You can change the elevation and heading of the sun, and this should provide a much more fun way to visualize what the terrain might look like closer to its final cut in the engine. And this can also make the details of the terrain a little bit easier to see. The fog gives a nice illusion of size and distance. I'm going to quickly generate another size map to look at here, and I'm just going to speed it up. It's now possible to adjust the water line. The beach is a little bit more relaxed, so there's a bit more of a transition, and so you can play with that to get exactly what you're looking for. And all of the fog options are adjustable here. You can change the base density of the atmosphere and the density of the exponential fog, the fall off, and the height of the where the fall off begins. And the fog interacts with the light kind of similar to Earth's atmosphere. You can change the color and intensity of the light and adjust its elevation to get different scattering effects in the atmosphere. Through experimentation, I've found that sometimes the dawn and dusk lighting can give some of the most revealing shots of the terrain profile. With the new render, it's possible to adjust the material and color of the terrain and the water plane. It's also possible to adjust the color of the fog. I find that by adjusting the heading while having a fairly low elevation for the light really shows off a lot of the different terrain features and contours. And you can see that it now supports the output size of 16384, and you'll need to import this using world composition because Unreal Engine won't support an import size that large, but it does work fine with world composition. It takes about a minute and a half to generate a map that size, so I sped up the output process here, and then I'm going to cut over to Photoshop. And you can have a look at the size and quality of the map we just exported. And here are some examples of the real-world terrain data used to train the biomes for the mountains and the canyons. And that pretty much covers the currently completed new features in WorldKit. There are still a few features in development, such as the ability to carve out riverbeds, the ability to export texture masks for use in layered terrain textures in Unreal Engine, and also additional biomes beyond just the mountain biome and the canyon biome that's currently in. Because the fundraiser for the commercial launch of WorldKit was not successful, I've decided to try for an open source launch instead. So in the near future there will be another Kickstarter fundraising campaign, but this time the goal is to cover the costs of development and not to bootstrap a company to support WorldKit, but instead to release WorldKit as open source so that it can be community maintained, kind of similar to Blender. So that's pretty much the current state of WorldKit. I hope the video was useful, and thanks for watching. Have a nice day.